Hey everyone, this is Laura Gadenik with Laura Gadenik Astrology, and I'm here to give you the astrology update for the week of June 15th through the 21st, 2020. Let me just share my screen. Okay, so we start off on June 17th with Mercury stationing retrograde. So this is Mercury right here. You can kind of see this S that stands for stationing. And whenever a planet is stationing, it means that it's slowing down and moving slower and stopping so that it can start moving in the opposite direction. And of course, this is kind of astrological terms. This doesn't actually happen in the sky. Mercury doesn't actually move backwards, just an optical illusion. But just for the sake of ease, we say that Mercury is traveling or starts to travel backwards in the sky. And so Mercury will be retrograde from Wednesday, June 17th through July 12th. And whenever Mercury goes retrograde, you can often expect delays and detours and mess ups. And this will definitely affect Mercury people the most. So people who have their ruling, some of their more important planets being ruled by Mercury. So this would be Virgo, Gemini. So if you have your rising, sun, moon, Venus, mainly sun, rising, moon, if you have any of those planets or points in Gemini or Virgo, this will strongly impact you the most. So yeah, delays, detours, mess ups. This is often a time where technology kind of goes haywire, or things just take longer to figure out or work out. Sometimes technology can mess up. Things can break down. Like the one Mercury retrograde for me this year, one of my computers stopped. Like I couldn't continue to upgrade my browser, so I couldn't use certain sites. Or there'll be like maybe some glitches in maybe your cell phone, or um, uh, transportation is a big one that can really get kind of clogged or messed up. If you're traveling during this time period, there might be delays or kind of miscommunication or confusion of some kind. Um, This is also a period, because Mercury represents our minds and how we think. This is also a period of reviewing and rethinking and reconsidering something. And when Mercury travels backwards, he's going to be traveling over territory that he's already gone through. And so Mercury is going to travel all the way back to about 5 degrees of Cancer, where Mercury already traveled. Let me see if I can show you. And move this down here. So if I move the chart back in time, we can go all the way back when Mercury was at 5 degrees of Pisces. So this was around June 1st, June 2nd. And so pretty much from June 1st, June 2nd to the 17th, that's the period of time that Mercury had already passed over these degrees that Mercury is about to pass over again in its retrograde. And so you can kind of think back to this time period, June 1st through the 17th, and think about, what was I thinking about during this time? Or what was I planning? Did I have any contracts that I recently made in that time frame, or any decisions that were finalized? Or did I commit to something? Did I have an idea for something? Usually these kind of topics, or maybe even communications you might have had with someone, or often, for a good example, is like applying for a job. Sometimes people will apply for a job like right before Mercury goes retrograde, and then usually you don't hear back from the job until after Mercury is going forwards again, it's stationed direct. So yeah, think about those things that maybe the topics that were on your mind, what you were thinking about, what you were planning for, what you were kind of considering, your communications with folks from June 1st through the 17th. And some of those topics will be brought back up, potentially repeated, potentially giving you a chance to redo. Because Mercury will be passing over the same territory. So it's kind of a chance to redo something if there was like a mess up or something like that. So yeah, and then Mercury will also leave its shadow on July 27th. And so what that means is Mercury, once it's stationed direct, it'll reach the point that it stationed retrograde at. So that is on June 17th. It'll reach 14 degrees of Cancer again. You can kind of see, here's Mercury still. If I move this like way forward, this would be July 27th. So you can kind of see, or maybe even July 26th, depends on where you're at, but you can see up here, this is July 26th, Mercury is back at 15 degrees of Cancer. So it takes that long for Mercury to come back to that point. So let me just take us back to where we're at. And, you know, Mercury, like I mentioned before, rules over the signs Gemini and Virgo over here. So whenever we have planets in Virgo or Gemini, then we say that Mercury rules them. So right now we have both the Sun, the North Node just recently moved there, but I'm not going to really focus on that right now. And then we have Venus, also in Gemini, which has been retrograde for the past several weeks. So the Venus retrograde is being ruled, or is ruled by Mercury. And just kind of some background info on Venus. Venus goes retrograde once every 2 years, so it's pretty rare when she retrogrades. And, you know, Venus is the planet of sweetness, of joy and happiness and love and relationships. And Venus is what brings pleasure to our world and to our lives. You know, she's the deluxe chocolate that's really high quality that you know buy at the market, or she's that really high quality wine that you find and split with a group of friends. You know, she's joy. She's going to concerts. She's meeting up with friends and chatting and connecting with people. And so when Venus goes retrograde, all of those joys or those sweetness, those pleasures, that fun that we might be kind of used to having is suddenly retrograding as well, meaning things suddenly turn a bit flat, or things don't seem quite as sweet or fun as they usually are. And so that's kind of partially what Venus retrograde, I think, is about. And we can also think of Venus as a planet of harmony and cooperation and consensus. You know, it's the planet that wants to unite us and bring people together and attract people to you. We can think about Venus in a lot of different contexts. You know, we can think about her in the context of you and your personal life and in your chart, your personal chart, or we can think about Venus in the context of a larger societal energy or collective energy. And so Venus does represent all of those things, you know, personal pleasure and fun and connecting with others, but also on a kind of a larger scale, it's consensus, it's uniting, it's harmony, it's how do we all get along. And so I think with Venus retrograding, all of those questions are being brought up to the surface, especially with regards to, you know, all of the Black Lives Matter protests happening across the country and across the world. Whenever, you know, when Venus goes retrograde, she kind of helps us question, well, what is harmony? What is consensus? Can we all get along, and can we experience beauty while our brothers and sisters are being oppressed? You know, Venus is one of the planets that has to do with justice. Venus rules over Taurus and Libra, and Libra is one of the signs of justice, of what is just and fair and right. And so, yeah, this is a time, definitely reflecting the collective energy of reviewing and rethinking Venus and retrograde. Anything retrograde is like reviewing, rethinking, redoing, getting a chance to do over type of thing. Redoing, reviewing, reflecting on what justice is and what consensus is and what unites us. And so Venus in Gemini, Venus is retrograding in Gemini, and she's ruled by Mercury, which is going to be retrograding in Cancer really soon, starting on Wednesday, June 7th. And so Cancer is a sign about family and clan and who are my people, and comfort and mother and home and nurturing and food. Cancer rules over the stomach. So on a more personal level, this could be a time, with Venus going retrograde, you might be questioning, where do I find my sweetness? Where did the sweetness of life go? It's been feeling really flat or stale recently. And maybe I haven't been enjoying life as much. And so we can look to Mercury in Cancer, which will be retrograding, and maybe looking for joy or sweetness in family, in our clan, and those we consider to be our tribe, or maybe even finding a little bit of sweetness through our stomachs. Like I said before, Cancer rules over the stomach. Spending this time coming up, really caring about the food that you're making, and really putting the time and effort to make food that you really enjoy, or that's really comforting or cozy, or that you feel nourished by. I think the way to sweetness, coming up with Venus retrograding in Gemini, ruled by Mercury in Cancer, is finding our clan, and maybe enjoying a meal with our families if they're nearby, and if not, then who are those around you that you would consider family. And I want to point out also that, like I said before, with the Black Lives Matter movement, this is being reflected in the astrology, it's not just one planet, it's not just one aspect. There's a lot of things going on. I can touch on a few of them. But like I just said, Venus retrograde is all about, consensus and harmony, and can we really experience pleasure and beauty when, a very specific part of our population is being oppressed and has been for forever. And I think that's what Venus is kind of bringing into question. And so looking to Mercury, which is ruling Venus, I think this is about, as a collective and as a country in the United States, it's about who do we consider to be our family and our clan, who's in and who's out. It's about expanding the concept of what family is, and who our people are. Black people are just as much a part of our family as white people, yet they've been being treated horrifically. And so I think that is really being reflected in the astrology, and not to say astrology or the planets are causing anything. I don't think we actually know if the planets are causing anything or just reflecting, or maybe playing a small part. I'm not quite sure. All I know is that there is a correlation, and it's beautiful, and it's a really amazing tool that we can go back to and look at to kind of understand the times and understand what's coming up. But I do think it's a really important thing to reflect on, is who is our family, and how can we expand our definition of what family and what clan really means to include equality and harmony for everyone. So anyway, that's my piece about that specific corner of the sky. Let's see, is there anything else I want to? Yeah. So just to kind of reiterate, Venus retrograde is asking us to reconsider, what is harmony? How do we unite? How do we get along? What does getting along even mean? And looking to Mercury retrograde in Cancer, which rules over the Venus, how do we communicate with each other and get our needs met, and who is in our clan, who are our people, and how can we actually treat them that way, you know? um and you know, Venus is going to stay retrograde for another couple of weeks. So this is going to be part of the energy for a while. I think they'll be retrograde overlapping only for like a couple days. Let's see. Actually, yeah, we'll get there when we do. But okay, so Thursday the 18th, we have, let's see. Okay, yeah. We have Mars over here in Pisces. Mars is right here, making a sextile to Jupiter and Pluto and Capricorn. And this is going to be kind of Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So kind of June 18th through the 20th. And we've been kind of feeling this buildup for a while. So Mars represents our action, how we take energy, how we take initiative, and how our energy and our pace in the world. It's also the planet that kind of reveals to us how we fight, and how we are martyrs, or how we fight for what we believe in. And specifically in Pisces, Pisces is a sign all about compassion and belief and inspiration and the ideal. So Mars in Pisces is all about fighting for what the ideal is, for what we dream of, what we believe in, fighting for compassion for each other, especially during these trying times. And I'm, you know, I'm not saying, I guess I'm saying compassion, demanding compassion for those who have been and are systemically oppressed, demanding compassion and justice from those in authority. But yeah, Mars and Pisces, fighting about something or for something that inspires us, that we believe in, putting our energy towards an ideal. On a personal level, though, Mars and Pisces can also be rather challenging, because if you think about Mars, it's a fiery planet. It's all about wanting to take action. Pisces is a water sign, so it's kind of like trying to run through water. How easy is that? It's really hard, actually. So the energy can be used either way. It can be used to fight for dreams or ideals, or what we believe in, or what we believe is the most compassionate thing to do. Or it can be, you know, feeling really unmotivated, or feeling maybe acting upon emotions, because Pisces is a water sign, and water signs are all about emotion. Can feel like sluggish, like you're slower than normal. It's like slow to run, hard to be motivated, perhaps. Or perhaps, like I just said, emotion is, or action is based purely on emotion. So it can be kind of challenging. It kind of depends on you and your personal chart and how it's hitting the rest of your chart, but there's a few different possibilities. And Mars moved into Pisces on May 14th. So we've been experiencing this sign-based sextile for almost at this point, a little over a month. And so sextiles are kind of sweet. They're filled with harmony and ease, and kind of, you know, it's a good time to take action with sextiles, because the energy is there to be supportive. And so, you know, Mars has been making a sign-based sextile to Capricorn, and with all these planets in Capricorn as well, since mid-May. And so with this upcoming sextile, it's like these energies are kind of maybe culminating a little bit, or coming to some kind of a peak, which kind of presents an opportunity for deep systemic change, and positive changes, and a positive response to what Mars in Pisces wants to do. I mean, I've talked about this before, but Capricorn is a sign that represents systems and structures, and kind of government, you know, the structures that we have in place in society to help us all function. Not to say that it's perfect at all, but it's helpful, it's useful. And you know, Jupiter is a planet that represents the wealthy, the high up, the royal, the CEOs, those in power, those who kind of control the world through wealth or prestige or social relationships. Jupiter is the royal, right? But in the sign of Capricorn, Jupiter right here struggles in the sign of Capricorn, because Capricorn, although is about although Capricorn is about systems and structures and government, etc., it's also about the downtrodden and those on the fringes of society, the marginalized. And so Jupiter and Capricorn kind of have opposite feels to them or energies to them. And so with Jupiter coming into Capricorn, there's usually like an economic like downturn, or people kind of struggling economically on a wider scale, more societally so. And these kind of questions are kind of raised up to everyday common awareness of what's fair and what's truly right and what's just, in terms of, is it really fair that the royal have all the power, or that, yeah, that a small group of people have all of the wealth and power. And with Jupiter in very close proximity to Pluto, the planet of death, decay and composting and ordeals and crisis and the transformations that come from them. Also in Capricorn, it's like, yeah, we are, fighting over here, Mars and Pisces, for an ideal, for a more compassionate world, for justice, for, Jupiter is a planet that does represent justice as well. Um, uh, and Jupiter in Capricorn, like I just said, is how can we level the playing field a little bit? How can we, make the de-royalize the royal and royalize the unroyal? How can we bring those from the fringes, those who are impoverished? How can we give them more wealth? Um, yeah, and with Jupiter coming into contact with Pluto, um, yeah, life, it's a dying process. It's a transformation that is usually pretty painful and might require death in some way or shape or form. But it's all about deep systemic change, getting to the root of the matter. So yeah, this has been, a good opportunity, and things have been getting heated, over the past couple of weeks in the protests and whatnot. But overall, all of the protests and everything, a lot of it has resulted in some really positive changes, which has been really gratifying and really lovely to see in the news. And that's great, because once Mars moves into Aries at the end of June, um, he'll be in a sign-based square to all of these Capricorn planets. And he's going to go retrograde in Aries later on in the year, and we'll actually spend about 6 months in the sign of Aries. So it's going to be a really long time of this Mars square to these Capricorn planets. And so things might get a little, we're at a good spot right now, regardless of like the tension. We're seeing results. But we just have to remember, when Mars goes into Aries and makes that square to Pluto, Jupiter, and then Saturn will be back in Capricorn by that point as well. Things might not always be so pretty. We've still got a lot of work to do, and there'll probably be some conflict and some other things that get dug up, so to speak, to be revealed in the light to society. Some more muck that to be gotten rid of, essentially, and that might require some confrontation or conflict of some kind. Okay, so and then Sunday we have an eclipse in Cancer, right here, 0 degrees of Cancer. So eclipses always indicate change. They're pretty big deals. They only happen a couple times a year. Um, and this is going to be the last eclipse that we have in the sign of in the Cancer Capricorn axis. We've been having eclipses in Cancer and Capricorn for the past year and a half almost, in the same sign as we have been having Pluto and Saturn, and then Jupiter most recently. So it's been pretty intense the past year and a half. And this is kind of the last hurrah for these signs. So wherever Cancer and Capricorn are for you, or I guess specifically in this case, wherever Cancer is for you in your personal chart, this is kind of a final hurrah or a final launching off point, so to speak, or kind of like a final change. Um, and eclipses always take within 6 months for the change to enact, or to take place. And once again, it's not always going to be like huge for everyone. It kind of depends on if you have planets that are at 0 degrees of Cancer, or even 0 degrees of Capricorn, or Libra, or Aries, because those are the cardinal signs, and so it'd be making a harsh aspect. Um, but just expect change, and Cancer is all about family and mother and nurturing and security and tribe, like where do I belong. So these themes might have been very apparent for you in some way in your chart. And it's not always necessarily uh you know in your life. If you have Cancer in your third house, the major changes could have been happening to a sibling, because the third house rules siblings. If it was happening in your fifth house right here, fifth house is the house of children, so there might have been major changes or challenges, or shifts in your kids' lives. It's not always about you. So just keep that in mind. Um, but yeah, other than that, I did forget to mention last week that there was an eclipse in Sagittarius. I can't remember if it was a solar or lunar, but there was an eclipse on June 5th, I believe, in Sagittarius around 15 degrees. And so we're in eclipse season, and just kind of be prepared for changes to take place, for shifts to happen. It could be unexpected or kind of erratic. So, stay flexible. Um, and yeah, I would love to know how eclipse season goes for you. So feel free to leave a comment um, in the chat or in the comment box. I'm going to stop sharing. Okay. So yeah, feel free to leave a comment if you want to. Otherwise, I will be back next week for another update for the astrology weather. So I hope you have a great week. Okay, bye.